Welcome, everybody, to the lastmarkstanding.com, i.e. Last Mark Podcast on Twitter. Yours truly, Damian Salty G, at Dare to be Damian. My partner in crime, Trina, the Marky Smark, at the Marky Smark. Special edition on a Sunday of Last Mark Standing. We kind of had an emergency situation to record now. So Trina has a lot to talk about. She's been a busy bee.
Yes, I have.
A road warrior in and of itself, pun not intended. So Trina, where have you been?
So I went to AAW in Chicago on Friday, and then was going to drive home to Kansas City, but then Spencer Williams reminded me that NXT was going to be in Omaha, which is 2 hours out of the way. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Omaha. So I went to NXT out in Omaha and saw that, and then drove home to Kansas City late last night. So about 18 hours of driving, 2 wrestling shows, worth the trip, I think. I had a really good time. Definitely had some epiphanies, I think, since we started doing this. Then that's part of the reason why I wanted to do a podcast today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to divulge what the epiphany is, or do you want to just lead into it?
Well, I tweeted about it on Sunday that I feel like our fans, wrestling fans, understand what you and I are trying to do in all of this. Right. They understand our mission. They understand why we're here, why we attend shows, why we tweet, why we podcast, and things like that. The fans completely get it. I mean, I don't even think I've met a fan who doesn't understand what we're trying to do about spreading the word of wrestling and trying to build a community and camaraderie between fans, having fans be respectful of the art. And, they get it. They know what we're trying to do, and that's why they're fans, and that's why they stuck around. But I just sort of had an epiphany that, wrestlers don't understand this at all. Probably because, they're not actually really listening to our podcast, when we ask them to, or hand them, business cards or whatever. And so I just kind of wanted to get on air and clear up, a bunch of things, because I did pass out a lot of Last Mark Standing tissues this week, and I really spread the word about the website, specifically to a lot of wrestlers, as many as I could. Anybody that I talked to, I was pretty much, this is our website, all of our entire libraries there. We talk about wrestling in a positive light. We cover it in a different way. And so I just, I spread the word, and it occurred to me that I'm not being really taken seriously. I get it. They have busy schedules and things like that. And, but I think even just seeing me physically, they don't believe or don't understand what I'm trying to do. And so it was an epiphany that that all the hustling that I'm doing, and the in-person, and the, driving to shows and trying to talk to people one-on-one, isn't necessarily helping. And it's not, and I was like, why am I not being taken seriously? And our friend, Mass Fan, obviously he's old wrestling reporter, enlightened me and said, it's because you're a girl. It's because you're a girl, you're a pretty girl. You walk in and you have to pretty much be a bitch, is what he told me.
Okay.
You have to be persistent. You have to be, on top of things, and just continually asking people to follow you and look at your podcast and look at your website and things like that. And so because I've been working really hard pretty much since April. We started recording in March. And then I was on Matman later in April, and our podcast started picking up traction. So I started to go to other shows. I started to go to indie shows just to spread the word about our podcast to get more listeners. So I've been working really hard pretty much since March, April to spread the word about our podcast and what we're trying to do. And it was just a little disheartening that it's September, 17th or 18th. I'm glad the fans get it. I love you guys. It's fantastic, but it almost feels, it's just disheartening. It feels like a waste if the wrestlers don't get it either. That the fact that they don't know that there are people out there trying to do positive wrestling podcasts and promote positive messages, and present respectful ways to be a fan. Like, we're helping them out, you know, because I'm sure like they've been, you know, they're on the road and stuff, and fans, I'm sure can be a little annoying or whatever. But podcasts like ours and a couple of our friends, like we're trying to, you know, to make the fans like understand that they're watching human beings, that they're watching performers. And so they need to treat people that way. They need to treat each other with respect. So, I mean, you know, I don't know. It's just one of those days where I was like, okay, if I'm not being taken seriously, or people don't understand where I'm coming from or what I'm trying to do, this might be a waste.
Okay.
So, and the other thing is we've gained a lot of new followers here since we've started. And so I think there probably are people who don't know what our mission is. And so if you follow me on Twitter, you've seen the post that I put up in the last couple of days. I think it's my 3 a.m. wrestling rant about what I'm like, my personal intentions are in all of this. You know, when I first started, the biggest thing was to promote wrestling, to put wrestling over. I wanted to join adult fans and see why, as adults, we all still love this thing that we loved as a kid so much. And what about it could connect us and help us be friends, be like a family, build some camaraderie. That's where I started. You know, and then it's just the podcasting took off, and you know, I've had the chance financially and personally to pursue this dream, whatever it is, if it's a podcasting job, broadcasting job, whatever. I've been working nonstop for like a decade, and you know, this is my eat, pray, love moment, pretty much. I don't know if you know, like it's eat, pray, love wrestling. You know, like I'm at that point in my career. I'm 34. I don't know if people know how old I am, but I've been working, you know, all my life, and I do have the opportunity now to pursue this dream and chase it, and I want to do it full on, and that's why I'm here. You know, because I feel like I got the question this week of like, what are you even doing here? Like, what are you trying to do? Like, what's your end goal? You know, and it's like, it occurred to me that maybe it's not apparent to everybody. So for all the new people, and the people that just don't join our podcast, if you haven't listened to our podcast, I think if you've listened to our podcast, you know what we're trying to do. Right. But I think obviously there's people who know about us, but they haven't listened to our podcast. And so, you know, I just kind of wanted to clarify and give context and even just recontextualize for old listeners what you and I are trying to do, which is the sad thing is I realize now that I have to justify myself and give a reason as to why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because I am a girl and I'm a pretty girl. So I have to put it out there. Like it's not a foregone conclusion that I'm here to do something productive, to promote my work or promote your work or anything. Like, you know, I'm not a ring rat. that's you know, like that's all it is. So either way, I think it's good to give people context and background as to why I'm doing this. So if you see me at a show and you see me doing whatever I'm doing, you know, I'm doing this all to promote our work. I think we do excellent work. I think we do work that's very different in the wrestling podcasting environment. And so I think it's worth listening to. And so that's why I push so hard for our podcast. And I think the people we work with, we're all trying to do something positive. So I push as hard as I can. But let me just start from I'm going to rant. This is going to be like a Trina-centric podcast.
You have the floor.
And Damian has been nice enough to let me. But, you know, it is a rant, so I'm hoping if it gets out of control or something like that, or Damian has questions, like I trust him. You know,
I got you.
He can moderate. It's fine.
Yeah, I got you.
But yeah, so I mean, I'm 34. I've been a wrestling fan for 25 years. Loved it, you know, pretty much since I was 5 years old. Always had to keep it secret when I was a kid because I didn't have any wrestling friends. Anytime it was revealed that I liked wrestling, it was looked down upon, especially by my parents, who were upper middle class immigrants from the Philippines. They just didn't think it was classy for me to like wrestling. They really wanted me to like more, mainstream sports and be a little bit more American, like upper middle class American, so it was just looked down upon. And I didn't really have a lot of friends. My brother and I were the only ones who watched wrestling. And so, fast forward, and I grow up, and I'm an adult, and I'm a human being, and I'm proud of myself and who I am. And I'm like, why don't I, just start loving wrestling again and seeing who else loves it and seeing why they love it, and like, let's just unabashedly be adult fans, like happy adult fans. And so that's why I set out doing this. I started live tweeting, and then Damian contacted me to podcast, and it's been a great journey trying to connect with people who are wrestling fans, because we find a lot of similar backgrounds, a lot of similar experiences. And I think wrestling is something that's able to connect us in a way that other hobbies or interests can do. So that's pretty much what I set out to do. And then, like I said, it's turned into an eat, pray, love wrestling situation, because financially I've been able to do that. And so I'm at a show almost every other week. Looking at my schedule now, I'm at a show in 2 weeks, and then another week after that. And then I'm off for 3 weeks. So, I don't know. I think on the surface, if you don't know who I am, you don't know what our podcast is, I probably just look like a psycho fan. I just look like some girl that's like worth, who was willing to drive 8 hours to a show and then drive another 8 hours to another show. It's like the ultimate fan or the ultimate ring rat. I don't know. That's what, that's what I'm feeling like maybe the perception might be if you don't know what I'm trying to do. And
let
so
me
that's
cut
why I
you
want
off right now real quick, and let me just say this as your partner and your friend. What you've done the last 2 days puts a lot of people, as far as what they do for a living and what they work as for a living, to shame. Because I don't know anybody, with the exception of you, who would be willing to go 8 hours each way, driving, mind you, not flying, doing the old-fashioned territorial back in the day, driving from city to city.
Yeah.
So it's
I felt
sort of
like a wrestler.
yeah, I was just gonna say, it's like the wrestler lifestyle of going from show to show in a car, and you're doing it because you love this. So
well, I
if
believe
anyone's
in our
got a
podcast.
problem, no, but beside our podcast, you love pro wrestling. You are passionate about pro wrestling. So for anyone who's out there who wants to question as to what you're doing here, you didn't want to do this to be famous. You didn't want to do this to be known. Okay, when we first met, you were live tweeting Raw, and I was live tweeting Raw, and that was it. We decided to do a podcast together. You're good at what you do. I'm good at what I do. Me personally, I don't want to work with anybody else in this vein, because you are the reason why a lot of us tune in. So if anyone is going to doubt your skills, your ability, or your passion for what you do, they can kiss my Puerto Rican behind. How about that?
You're going to make me cry.
You always cry.
I know, but I appreciate that. So thank you. Because I work really hard. I believe in the podcast. I believe in what we're trying to do. And so, that's why I do this. I want people to hear us. I want people to hear how we talk about wrestling, that wrestling fans can be intelligent, that they can think deeply, that they can apply, wrestling plot lines to the bigger picture. I did this to change the face of the wrestling fan. We're not all these just like, backyard wrestler, whatever, so I just wanted to change the face of the wrestling fan. I wanted to put wrestling over. I have a nephew. I want him to grow up a happy wrestling fan like I did. I don't want him to be jaded, and angry and sad the way some wrestling fans are and some of their podcasts are. I want him to love it the way that I did. So, there's a lot of things at play here. But my overall, my overarching theme is to put wrestling over. And so, so my epiphany this weekend was that I'm not being taken seriously for a plethora of reasons. Part of it is because I am a woman, and I'm attractive, and masked fans said that, there hasn't been a good track record of super passionate, attractive female fans. And so for me to walk in and have people presuppose that from the beginning, it's not fair. But what can I do? And so Mass Fan was saying, it's like, you have to be persistent. You have to be a bitch about it, pretty much. And, it's like, it's tough because I'm me. Like, you guys have been getting me since like March, April. I don't really think I can be anything else. I do have the heel Trina persona, but it's like when I'm trying to connect to people, and which is what I'm doing when I'm talking to people about Last Mark podcast, it's not natural for me to be like, hey, pay attention to me because I'm a serious journalist, or you know, like that's not the case. And look, I get it. Like indie wrestlers, all like professional wrestlers and people on the indie circuit, they're all super busy. And what I hear all the time is, yeah, everyone has a podcast. You know, because like the second I say podcast, that's the first thing that like runs through their head. It's like, oh yeah, like a million other fanboys, like you have a podcast. But my bigger point here is I think wrestlers need to consider that we live in 2016, where stars are being made by the internet wrestling community. You know, organizations are being put over by the internet wrestling community. People like Zack Sabre Jr., Will Ospreay, those guys are known now because of the internet. And so I know in the past it was easy to pass someone off as just one of the million fans who has a podcast and, you know, whatever. But I want that wrestlers to consider that there are people with power in this genre, and who are trying to do really positive things for wrestling, who are trying to promote people who work really hard and things like that. And so, like, we're not just fans, you know, like the guys that walk in are not just like fanboys who live in their mom's basement, and girls that walk in are not just ring rats, you know, like there's so much more. The fan base is so much more diverse, and we have so much more to offer than that.
Can I give you a follow-up question on what you just said?
Yes. Yeah.
In relation to how people perceive male and female wrestling fans, how do you think we should go about, because you and I, our show is about educating people here at Last Mark Standing, how should we go about showing wrestlers that we're a more evolved fan base, where we're not trying to put ourselves over, we're trying to put the sport over?
Well, I mean, it's like, one thing, listen to our podcast. You know, like that's the thing. Like you can talk to me all you want about like what I'm trying to do, or I can do this little like interaction with the fans, but it's like you have to listen to the podcast to hear our passion, to see what we're saying every single week about how we're trying to put wrestling over, how, you know, we're trying to respect other fans and respect the wrestlers and things like that. Like, you know, like what we've been trying to do has been well documented since April. And I think the only thing I can ask is, you know, like, don't look at every one of us as the same thing. We're not just like generic fan, you know, like generic fanboy, whatever. Like, and honestly, like as a girl, if you're like not really going to take me seriously, then just don't take me seriously and like, don't waste my time. You know, because I think as a girl, I already do get that extra. I probably get an extra 5 minutes because it's like, hey, I'll talk to you. You know, it's like I've been doing a lot of these things because I know, you know, if you were doing them yourself, you might not get the ins that I get because you're not a free girl. And that's why I do this. You know, like I know that that's the advantage that I have. But you know, like I don't approach people frivolously, you know, like I approach them saying I have a podcast. I state explicitly, you know, what's happening, that I'm a big fan. I cover wrestling. We have podcasts where we talk about bigger issues in wrestling. You know, I don't even ask them to be on the show outright. You know, like my number one goal is just to get more people to listen to the podcast. But what I've been noticing, and it's been a trend, and I really didn't notice it until just this weekend, is that, you know, I can tell by when I walk up to a wrestler, I can see it already on his face. We're not going to have a serious conversation. You know, it's like they were just talking to some guy who saw them 15 years ago and whatever, knows their whole library and whatever. And then that guy moves aside and then my face shows up and it's like the look on their face completely changes. Right. Exactly. So it's like, so I've seen it, you know, and there have also been some wrestlers who seem like they've taken me seriously, but, you know, never followed up. I emailed them like a couple times. You know, people seemed really sincere about it. And so I've just come to the conclusion that after all these months that I'm pretty much just not being taken seriously, which sucks. So, you know, it's like, we have something to give the wrestling community. I tweeted out like earlier today that I want to do a wrestling fan revolution. I think we have a lot of power to change things within our own community, and I think we have a lot of power to change things within wrestling. Obviously, these new promotions that are popping up, or these promotions that have been getting more publicity, it's been because of us. And the wrestlers that are being pushed, it's because of us. It's because we're talking about them. And so that's my plea to the wrestlers, is like, this is 2016. The internet wrestling community can put anybody over. So, like, if you see us at a show, like, we're not all just like trying to fangirl or fanboy. Some of us are really, really trying to seriously do something to help evolve wrestling and the wrestling fandom. And so, like, just because I'm walking up and I look nice and I have makeup on, please don't think that I want to sleep with you. I present myself. I present myself in a good way because I'm proud of my work, and I'm proud of myself, and I'm proud of the things that I do. And, that's pretty much why I'm there, dressed nicely, and I look good, because, I'm, again, proud of myself, proud of my work. And so, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me jump in here right quick.
Yeah.
Number one, I remember a few weeks ago when we were talking off air about the Seth Rollins thing. Remember when you first told me about it that night, and you just didn't know how to react? I felt for you, not because I thought they weren't giving you a fair shot. I actually felt more for you because I felt you weren't giving yourself enough of I want to say acclaim and just salutations for your own effort. I'm over here in New York, so it's, and I have, and as you well know, a very diverse and interesting life that I live, and it's hard for me to get to all these shows. But and let me put you over again really quick in saying that the main reason I even got back into wrestling, and anyone who watches this show and listens to the show knows this, is because of you. You brought out a sense of appreciation, of love for the sport, and, to borrow Tim Cale, the art of professional wrestling. Not many people give that. Not many people legitimately give that, because I can talk about people I know personally who have not even podcasts, who have shows, who poo-poo pro wrestling, like you said, to be the we all live in our mom's basement, we're all ring rats mentality.
Yeah. Trashy.
People who are famous in the world of broadcasting, who I know have gone on record to tell me that they think that wrestling fans are all the same, that they don't evolve. Well, here we are evolving, and pun intended or unintended for the Evolve Federation. But let me just say this from my perspective. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. Yeah, I've been doing broadcasting for a while now, and I had my own show, and you know that, and that's the reason why you and I decided to join forces. But I get a bigger kick and enjoyment out of doing this show, Last Mark Standing, than I used to doing my own sports-related show, Dare to be Damian. And the reason why is because I took what I loved about my show, which is delving into deeper, big-picture wrestling sports topics, and now we're taking it a step further in regards to wrestling. Anyone new to the show, we don't care about pushes. We don't care about results. We don't do recap shows. There are plenty of podcasts or broadcasts for that. What we do, and what Trina does, is, like she said, she tries to put over wrestling as a whole. Try to bring in new fans to the genre. Try to put a bigger circle of visibility around what we're trying to do here and what she's trying to do. She is a one-woman advertising executive for pro wrestling. So if anyone's not taking it seriously, let me tell you as a partner, because I'm not even saying this because we're friends. I'm saying it because you're one of the most hardworking people that I have ever met in regards to wanting to hustle to do what we got to do. So you know what? I am in total awe of everything you did this past weekend, because I wanted to drive up to Lockport to see Ring of Honor. You know that. Everyone knows that. I just couldn't get around to doing it because nobody wanted to go, or I just had too many things going on. What do? You hop in a car, drive solo, 8 hours each, and then you say, you know what? After AAW, you say, you know what? I'm going to go to Omaha. Who wakes up and says, I'm just going to go to Omaha to catch NXT?
Well, because I had so many tissue packets. And
It's not about the tissue packets, Trina. Yeah, it's not about the tissue packets. It's about the fact that you love this.
Well, and I like talking to wrestling fans. I like making wrestling friends, and I want people to listen to the podcast. Yeah, I mean, AEW was fantastic on Friday because it was like being with family. It's like we all talk on Twitter and stuff like that, and we support each other, but to be in the same place all at the same time was just like a really good feeling. It's just like it feels like we're really doing something within the fandom, connecting people and building camaraderie. That I don't think that I think we're succeeding at that in spades. Obviously we have other podcasts now that are talking to each other because we're connecting them. Like it's a totally different time. Andrew Zarian said the same thing. It's like everybody has their different cliques. We're all like collaborating. We're commingling. Like everybody's trying to help each other out. For the greater good of wrestling. And so it was just disheartening to think that maybe wrestlers don't realize what's going on within in their own fandom. That podcasters and fans are trying to help each other out, and ultimately there are fans and podcasters who want to help the wrestlers out. And so if you could please just take us seriously, if we say we have a podcast or whatever, we're all trying to do the right thing. Yeah. So I mean that's really all it is. And to go back, so Masked Fan was like you need to be a little bit more aggressive, and I thought about it for a while because obviously my strategy has not been to be my strategy has been to be myself, is to go up and like help people out and be nice. Like I mean at AEW this weekend I was helping people try and sell their merch. And I think they were looking at me like I was like a crazy person, but Matt Riddle, like he was totally appreciative of it. I'm sure like they're not used to this, but what I'm trying to say is, guys, we live in a different world. This is a world of self-promotion. There is no selling out. Any help that you can get to promote yourself and your brand, take it. It's not like a separation now between like fan base and wrestler. You can both help each other succeed and achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And so, I think if we open up lines of communication that way and have the wrestler and the fan look at each other that way, I think we're going to get to a better place. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think if we just keep ascribing to this, like, okay, you're a Psycho fan, I'm a wrestler that you are in love with or whatever, we're not going to get anywhere.
Huh?
If we join forces, like people like me who love to promote their favorite wrestlers and love to promote wrestling, can do you a favor and like promote you and promote your shows and everything and help put over little organizations. There's a lot of like collaboration that can be done here. And so I just ask that maybe the wrestlers look at the fan a little bit differently. And I want to say that I will not be a bitch and I will just continue to be myself and see if that works. I'm still going to be like I'm going to be the crazy person trying to sell your merch. I'm going to be like pulling people like from their chairs and going like, hey, check this shirt out. I'm in promoter mode, and just realize that there are people that are like that. You know what I mean? Like we're not like just psychos. Like there are people that just naturally like to promote people that the wrestlers they like. It's like there's no hidden agenda here is what I'm trying to say. So it's like if I walk up to your merch table and I like pull a guy aside and I'm like, you should buy this shirt, it's not because I'm trying to get into your pants.
Right. But because we live in a world where the male female dynamic isn't as fleshed out as we'd like it to be, that is the that is the go-to for some people. Right. Because I think you've said it before, and I believe we've talked about this ad nauseum. But whenever a pretty girl walks into a room, let's be honest here, and it's a room full of dudes, they stop what they're doing to notice the pretty girl. It's happened when we were 8 years old, 5 years old, 10 years old, and so on and so forth. But my problem is with my own gender. My problem is that if you're in, and this goes to sports broadcasting also, if you're in a room of mixed company and you're covering an event, why do we have to take it to that point of I don't want to say sexism and misogyny, but why do we got to take it to that point where that's the first thing within the first 20 seconds of meeting someone we have to do? See, because when I meet people, man, woman, child, or whatever, I'm just like, here's another human. Hey, how's it going? It's not until maybe like 30 seconds into the conversation where my defense mechanisms kick up. So I'm curious, and me being the psychology guy, I'm curious as to why that happens. Why is that such a common thing to occur in these types of mixed company situations? You see it at parties, you see it at events. I can talk about it when I saw it at ROH. Like the minute a pretty girl walked in, the dudes were just like, huh? Like they didn't know how to formulate a freaking sentence. And I'm thinking, why? You've never seen a woman before? I don't understand this. And I'm not browbeating anybody. Let me just say that much. Because I've been the nerdy dude at the convention that sees, a cosplayer and I'm thinking, wow, but I don't stop what I'm doing. I keep it moving. So I want to implore some people in particular. I wrote some notes down here. I want to request that if anyone knows any independent wrestlers out there who want to share their stories, please tweet the show at Last Mark Podcast, tweet Trina at the Marky Smart, or me at Dare to be Damian. Because the reason why, I'm hearing Trina talk about why she likes to do this. Me personally, I care about the story also as much as I care about wrestling. So if there's anyone out there that is willing to share their story, who happens to be a wrestler, doesn't matter, have to be pro, indie, aspiring. If you're going to wrestling school and you want someone to chronicle it, please tweet the show. DM me, slide into my DMs, even though I just figured out what that means, or let Trina know, because as she's talking, I'm starting to understand what my passions are for this as well, because as we all know, I am one of the shyest mofos you're ever going to meet in person. Okay? It's only because I'm hiding behind this microphone right here as that why I'm able to be the way I am. So anyone out there, if you know any pro wrestlers, like I said, they could be starting, they could be in indie federations, that's fine. Have them tweet Last Mark Podcast, have them tweet me or Trina. I want to hear their story, and I'm sure Trina would be very appreciative if a wrestler that she met at an event is willing to share their story with us, because we want to bridge the gap between fan and performer.
Right.
We don't want to be those douchey fans that you're going to talk about, like from NXT yesterday. We don't want to be those douchebag fans that makes a wrestler not want to give their 110%. Because you know what? I love watching you guys and girls perform. I will gladly go to your shows. Look, I'm going to House of Glory this month and next month. I didn't even know about House of Glory until 2 months ago. But now I'm going with my personal security guard, Castle Rick Castle, who's also going to be handing out tissues and Last Mark paraphernalia, because I'm too punk ass to do it. So I'm going to have someone else do it for me. So thank you, Ricky. But no, seriously, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be the bridge between fans and wrestlers, because there is a disconnect. It does, it doesn't matter what kind of times we live in now. There will always be a disconnect of people. But if we can bridge these gaps, I think we're going in the right direction, and I implore other people to follow suit with that. So without further ado, Trina, please tell me about the douchemongers that you met at NXT.
Oh, well, I will, but I have so much more to go. This rant is really, really long.
God
I think going back to the Seth Rollins thing, that situation was so uncomfortable for me because of the perception of the power dynamic between me as a female and him as a female fan and him as a male wrestler superstar. And it's like, it shouldn't be that way. You know what I mean? Like as a girl, as a pretty girl or a girl that's alone in a situation, I should not feel like a piece of meat. So it's like, if I go to a show and I want to talk to you, I shouldn't feel like I'm a target. Like I should feel like you're relating to me one-on-one as a person. Respect is just the minimum. It's like, you can go further than that.
Human decency, go figure.
Right, exactly. So I mean that's the thing. There is like a disconnect between fans, I think, and the performers, and there is especially a disconnect between female fans and performers, because of that power dynamic. It's like I know I can walk into a room and I'll be noticed, but
Yeah.
no one's going to hear a word that comes out of my mouth or listen to it or take it to heart or anything like that. And so, no, it's just I'm trying to do something positive, and I don't really I don't think it's fair. I think I'm doing a good job trying to spread the word and doing something good for wrestling and for the fans and things like that. And it's like, just take a minute to like really hear what I'm saying or listen to our podcast. And if anything, we live in a world right now where fans are capable of creating stars in the ring and outside the ring. They can create, like internet wrestling stars themselves. Like there are a couple people coming to the next AEW show. One of the more famous fans from California, she's going to be there. It's a weird thing. Like we've created this world within fandom, where like this fan is like sort of famous, and so see that we're able to propel like somebody to like that high of a status, and imagine what we could do for you as an independent wrestler. Like imagine what the internet could do, to get you into PWG next year. It's like if enough of the fans call for it, the indie organizations will have to do it. And so that's why you have to look at the fan differently. We live in a different world. The fan has some power now, and the dynamic's a little bit different. So, it's a little counterintuitive to our discussions because we talk about the hipsterism of wrestling, and all these things that I'm doing and going to shows and things like that. I am trying to be one of the elite, that I always rag on. But I argue that some are more worthy than others. And like I said, again, if you listen to the podcast, what we are trying to do is positive. And so if you listen to our podcast and you think that what we're doing is great, then please support us. But just give it a shot. Give us 5 minutes, see what we're trying to do, listen to the podcast. Majority of the fighters the wrestlers that I talk to are fantastic. It's just, like I said, I see it in all of their faces. Like the second I walk up, I'm pegged as like just frivolous, like pretty girl. I could tell them that their car's on fire in the parking lot. They probably wouldn't hear it. So, but like we're all like trying to hustle here. So that's the thing. But wrestling's a hustle. And so it's like now fans are doing it to put themselves over, like, let us help you put you over and things like that. And so, I think we should all just do our best to help each other. And this is not a territories thing anymore. Like we need to cross promote. I mean, we're as a podcast, we cross promote with other podcasts and, like we help each other out. It's a different game. Right. This is not just all like fanboys and ring rats. Like there's opportunity for collaboration. And so I just want people to know that this is the situation right now. So.
Well, think about it like this: from what you just said about collabs and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
you've done Mat Men, you
Mm-hmm.
did Rant with Ant. I'm going to be doing Rant with Ant in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We did Bear Hug It Out last week. So for people who think that this is a competitive market or we're trying to compete with one another, it's not that.
Right.
We actually are trying to do this the way of being more humane.
Mm-hmm.
We connect with one another. We bond with one another. We all love and appreciate what each of us do.
Mm-hmm.
And for me personally, I find this to be very enlightening for me because over the last maybe 2 months, I've probably
Mm-hmm.
made the most wrestling friends
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that I have in my entire life up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't used to have Twitter. I only had Twitter because I was trying to promote my old sports show. But now,
Mm-hmm.
because we're known, because people know our show and they talk to us and they tweet us, I feel as if I'm reporting and talking to my family in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I thank them for that. And I think that's the whole point of what we're trying to do. And I know you're trying to do this for the wrestler. It's sort of like bringing them into the family. Like, listen, We're behind you. We're
Right.
rooting for you. We want you
Yeah.
to succeed. So why in the hell? I'm not going to be the grumpy dude to bash wrestlers, just to put my own show over. Because even off air, we've talked about wrestlers that I may not have liked, that
Mm-hmm.
have treated you a certain way or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a professional and I don't let that affect my job.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're telling me a person's good in spite of whatever, I'll give them a
Mm-hmm.
chance, like anyone else in
Mm-hmm.
life. You feel the vibe out.
Mm-hmm.
The vibe's not working, you keep it moving. Some
Yeah.
people listen to our show once, realize that, hey, we're not talking about pinfalls and wins and losses. They tune out. That's cool. There's
Mm-hmm.
plenty of other shows for you out there like that. But if you want to
Right.
hear two people who are passionate about what they believe in and what their mission statements are, because face facts, we have a mission statement about who we are and what we believe in, then
Mm-hmm.
that's what's going to keep you here. I can go
Mm-hmm.
on a diatribe of who really cares about this show. And that's who I can say I do this for because, yeah, I am
Mm-hmm.
a broadcaster by trade. But
Mm-hmm.
what good is a broadcaster if they don't believe in what they're talking about or they don't
Mm-hmm.
believe the fan base that they're talking to? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
for anyone out there who because I know some people have approached me offline and say, why do you do what you do? Or how do I get people to appreciate what I do? All I say is this, and this goes along with what Trina does: be passionate in what you're doing and what you believe in. Everything
Mm-hmm.
else will fall into place. And I know you wanted to make this a rant, but as you're
Mm-hmm.
talking, you wanted my regular feedback as it's
Yeah.
happening. And that's
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling
Mm-hmm.
you as my friend and as my partner trying to get this word out, get these feelings
Mm-hmm.
out. I don't want them to fall on deaf ears because they're not
Right.
falling on deaf ears in my regard. But if
Mm-hmm.
anyone, again, if you're listening out there, tweet the show, show your support at Last Mark Podcast. Show Trina some love at the Marky Smart. I don't really care about me. I'll
I
never put
care
my.
about you.
I know you do, but I will
Yeah.
never be the one to put myself over because I got enough problems. I don't need to put myself over. But I love this show. I love the friends we've made. I love the connections we've made. And I will continue
Mm-hmm.
to do this show as long as I believe in the message. And I believe in not just the message, but I believe in you and I believe in me. I believe in our family, our wrestling family.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
again, if you're listening, thank you. I now return you to our regularly scheduled Trina.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because in doing all of this in the last couple months, I've found a lot of like passions beyond just wrestling. Like I like promoting. I like figuring out social media and what works, and marketing, and I made the website, and like I'm trying to not just promote wrestling, but if I can help promote wrestlers, I'd love to do that too. So I mean, that's the thing. I just kind of looked back on my weekend and looked at all the hard work that I've been putting in and realized that like it maybe wasn't being taken seriously, and that kind of hurt. So um, there's people in the chat room, Damian. If you can you see them?
Which chat room? In
The
YouTube?
YouTube chat room. Yeah.
I'm not on it.
Okay. Apparently, there's like a lot of conversation going on over there.
Is it good?
I don't know. Is there any way for you to get to it?
All right. Well, let me keep talking while I go investigate.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, that's the gist of my rant, and so maybe it's a little heel Trina-ish, but I think there's a lot of room here to help evolve wrestling from what it is, what it used to be. People are doing some big things. It's not just me and Damian. We have a lot of friends out there that are they're hustling just as much as we are. They're doing great work and things like that. And so, yeah, look, it's a different time. We're not just like a bunch of like nerdy fans, like, ooh, like I want to meet this wrestler and whatever, like we're doing our own shit. Like we're making podcasts, we're making shows, like we're writing blogs, like all this different stuff, like we have a lot of power now. So like recognize that and respect us, for more than just like somebody who idolizes you.
Imagine that there's
Oh.
people out there that actually idolize us. That'd
Yeah.
be kind of weird for me personally.
Yeah. I'm a jackass, so
I'm aware, but we're still friends,
Yeah.
so it's okay.
yeah. Okay, so now we can go to NXT really quick because this is the real heel Trina of the portion of the show, because I felt like the rant was going to be a little heelish, but then you made me cry like 3 times, so it
You're welcome.
didn't really work. So, but it finally happened yesterday that I finally yelled at somebody, like really yelled at somebody for just being like a jackass at a show. So I was at NXT Omaha, really, really small venue, small crowd. So it felt really intimate. And so you could hear everybody, you know, like you could hear everything that people were chanting and things like that. And I'll say overall, the crowd was fantastic. I happen to be sitting next to real wrestling fans, like legitimate wrestling fans who go to every show. They know everything about the current product. They go to the indie shows, whatever, like real fans. You know, and the woman in front of them, we were in the second row, was standing the entire time. And she was filming. She was like filming like this, like on the railing. Yeah. And he asked her several times, very nicely, very politely, respectfully, could you please sit down? I can't see. And she would just ignore him. And so, you know, because I'd been talking to this guy and I was like, this guy's a legit fan. He's legitimately missing a show that he wants to see. Like, he's not just some guy that's here. So I took it upon myself. I tapped her on the shoulder and I just I kind of went off on her. And the guy next to me backed me up. He was like, she's right. She has a point. And it ended with her going like, okay, I get it. But what I said was, you know, I was like, look, nobody behind you can see. You are the only one standing in the front row. And she's like, well, I can't see, because the announcer was sitting in front of her, so his head was blocking her. And I was like, look, I'm 5 feet tall. I can't see either, but I'm not standing. And she's like, but I can't see. And I'm like, look, this is decorum. This is fight decorum. Like, for centuries, people have been going to boxing matches and wrestling matches and now MMA matches, and they sit because that's how we treat each other, with respect. Right. And then he backed me up, and then she sat down, and, you know, I think I scared her a little bit, but, you know, it actually happened. For all the times that I talked shit about yelling at people at shows, it finally actually happened. And I didn't curse when I did it. I mean, maybe did before and after, but not when I was actually speaking to her. I did it respectfully, and, you know, she sat down, and that was it. So, you know, it works. It works. And the thing is, like, I felt like I needed to do something because the person next to me had tried everything that they felt like they could do. He asked her probably 5 times to sit down. You know, and I was like, all right, I can do something more. And I did something more. And there was also a group of fans, like, way over there that were just chanting everything and whatever. And, like, again, I would stand up and just stare at them. And then I would, like, start taking pictures, and they were noticing that I was taking pictures of them, and then they would stop. So these are all tactics that I used at NXT yesterday to put some fans in their place. Heel Trina. Hashtag Heel Trina.
Hashtag Heel Trina. Oh, by the way, I am on the chat now, and I'm laughing because someone actually did a hashtag Heel Damian. It says, has there ever been a video that I made where I didn't bury the fans? Hashtag Heel Damian. Do I bury the fans?
Well, we are very critical of the fans. We're very critical, and it's difficult because, you know, we don't want to shame anybody, or we don't want to let people think that there's a certain way to be a fan, because there isn't. What it comes down to is respect. You know, like, the truth of the matter is, not a lot of us have been on a stage before, but put yourself on that stage, and just imagine how you want the audience to act while you're up there doing your performance, giving them something to enjoy. You know, it's just like, imagine if people were just, like, chanting random things and then, you know, doing it's just so rude. Like, just don't think about the performers up there, you know? Like, there's a reason that people don't chant at, like, Broadway shows.
Imagine. So, yeah. Imagine watching Aladdin and you're booing the genie, like, boo, you suck, genie. Imagine that.
Right. Exactly. So, look, we are critical of the fans, for sure. You know, because we're trying really hard. We're trying to go to shows and see more people like us and less like Harambe guy.
Don't even start me a Harambe guy, man.
So, I mean, and then the other thing is, we want other shows like us or above us to talk about it as well. And so what sounds like us burying the fans is us being critical of the fans, but also trying to, you know, beat the drum and repeat the idea that let's be respectful to each other and to the performers.
So was there anything good out of NXT besides the douchemongers?
Mm. I really liked it. It was terrible because there were a couple of other listeners in the audience, and they were texting me. They're like, "The show sucks," and blah 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 and whatever. I've lost my voice again because that NXT was wrestling night number 2, so my voice I was screaming for Ty Dillinger and Daria got. Yeah, exactly. And Daria got to wrestle, and that's the first time I'd seen her live. I've been hearing so much about her. And I think she looks fantastic in the ring. Like I just like
Daria. Couldn't hear you.
Daria?
Oh yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think she looks fantastic in the ring. She just brings a presence, and she's not there yet. I mean, she's obviously she's not even like in the title run over at NXT, but I think she's somebody to keep an eye on. She's just really compelling to me as a character, and she presents herself really well. I had a lot of fun actually. We got to see Nakamura and the guy next to me had never seen a Nakamura entrance. So
Are
I was
you serious?
like, yeah, I was just like, hang on, like this is going to be awesome. It wasn't like Take Over Brooklyn. You didn't have the whole crowd singing and like doing the little finger thing, but for Omaha it was good. It was a good show, and I mean, like again, this is the thing. I think performers like this at this level, I found are a little bit more respectful of the fans.
Right.
Like someone like a Tommaso Ciampa is one of the people who does take me seriously when I'm speaking to him. Like he, and I don't know if like there's a divide in the wrestling world. That there are like other levels of wrestlers who still like treat fans negatively or poorly, but I don't know. I don't want other girls who are trying to promote their work to have to feel the way that I've felt in the last couple months. I want other girls to be able to promote their podcasts or their writing, or like Kate, she does analytics, like about wrestling. Mm-hmm. I don't want her to walk into a room and feel like she's just a piece of meat and not an intelligent woman with a brain with amazing work to present. And that's just sometimes how it feels for female wrestling fans. And so that's pretty much why I had to go on the rant.
I noticed, and I see now that you've gone on the rant, you were a little bit more calmer than when we started the show. So I'm glad it helped, and it's a bit of catharsis for you.
Yeah.
Because when we talked last night, you were just like, and you were just, venting and just, you need to get this out. And I feel as if anything, and I hate to use the term therapy, but if anything, our show is very therapeutic for some people because people do empathize with what you do. They do connect to you. I'm in the chat, and there's a couple of people that are telling me that they feel your pain, but you inspire them. And you are a person who pretty much can connect with all ages. Especially, certain 14-year-olds.
Yeah, my little buddy.
Yeah, your little buddy, who apparently is our under 18 correspondent for the show, apparently. And your passion shows. So if anyone, when you walk into a room, is going to doubt your passion, then they're not really connected to other humans. Let's just put it that way. I hope that I can be, because there's times where I'm just so disconnected from things where I just kind of just shrug. This happened last night, actually. I was with family, and and I'm gonna tell a personal Damian story.
Yay!
I was with family last night, and I'm not gonna shout out who it was particularly, but they decided to show me pictures of their new significant other. Now, I've been so in tune with being salty Damian G that I sort of lived the gimmick a little too hard last night, where they showed me pictures of their significant other, told me about their significant other, and all I could muster when I was looking at pictures and hearing the story was, like, I didn't even hide it. It came out instantaneously. They were just like, here's a picture. And I went, And then they're telling me about them, and I'm just like, okay. Do you want me to throw you a party? Like that's the reaction I had. Now I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if it's just because I've just been desensitized by life, or just being a born and bred New Yorker, you just grow to be hard to a lot of things, a
Mm-hmm.
little
Yeah.
cold to a lot of things. But
Yeah.
like, even some people who were with me, their reaction was just like, dude, like,
Yeah. Damn.
damn, like, how heartless are you? And I'm thinking, it's not that I'm heartless, it's just, what do you want? Like, all right. And
Yeah.
this person has a very bad dating history. Let's just put it that way. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's just like, man, I don't care. Wake me up when you get engaged, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And as this relates to wrestling, when I hear someone that is a new fan of our show, I get
Mm-hmm.
happy. But then at the same token, there's a part of me that's annoyed, that's thinking like you, like, okay, how long you really gonna stick with this show? Are you only here because you saw Trina and you're like, oh, the cute girl told me to listen to this show, and then
Yeah.
when you realize she's got a brain, it's like, oh, she's smart. I can't listen to this.
Yeah.
We need more. And I'm not gonna, say any podcast, but it's gonna be like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
we need more talk about puppies. No, we don't need more podcasts about that. We need more podcasts about the sport, the action, the in-ring portion, the
Mm-hmm.
passion, the pageantry, anything that moves you. Fine. Me,
Mm-hmm.
it takes a lot. And if I feel anything, and Trina, you well know this, if I
Mm-hmm.
even show the small semblance of emotion, we're doing something right. So for me to be this passionate toward pro wrestling as an art form, or as like an athletic endeavor, or even our fans or the people we connect to, then it's
Mm-hmm.
hitting the right notes for me. But
Mm-hmm.
anything else, I'll tell you the truth, man. I will always hit you with 100% realism of if I care or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I care because I keep showing up to record for the fans. I keep showing up to record for you and for the
Yeah.
rest of the team. So I will always be here as long as we believe in what we believe in.
Yeah. Yeah. This is true. I said that last week. It's like, if you want to go away from the product for a while, I'll be here. So.
Oh yeah, no, I'm taking off tomorrow. I'm not watching Raw. I'm saying it
Mm-hmm.
now. I'm not even gonna live tweet Raw. That's all
Okay.
Trina. I am
Mm-hmm.
completely off of Raw tomorrow. I'm gonna go do
Mm-hmm.
laundry. How about
Yeah.
that? I'm gonna go do some laundry because
Sounds hot.
watching the spin cycle is probably going to be a lot more interesting than watching another Darren Young versus Titus O'Neil match. Just saying.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's my concern. That's been a thing probably in the last couple of weeks that's been coming up because I have been hustling for the show and I've been showing up places and selling it as much as I could. I worry about blind devotion.
Hmm.
I worry about people who are like, oh yeah, like I love your show, or they put us over, and then they like know nothing about us. I would much rather have somebody listen to our show than put us over on the internet, or like, you know, publicly support us, things like that. Like, I don't need the promotion. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I just want, I want to feel like what we're doing is worthwhile and meaningful. And so I want people to just listen to the show. If you're like a quiet, just like, silent listener, like that's totally fine. Just keep listening. We'll keep doing it, keep subscribing and rating and downloading. But, um, you know, encourage your friends. If you listen to the podcast and you've been with us for a while, um, encourage your friends that we're a little different, and that we do have some substance, and we're trying to say something that's a little different compared to everybody else, and we're doing this for the good of wrestling and the survival of wrestling as a sports entertainment entity.
I was just gonna say entity.
Oh my
Nice.
God. Yeah. I mean, so it's like we're doing good stuff. We're trying to keep people employed. We're trying to keep children entertained. We're trying to keep adults entertained. If you listen to some of our earlier podcasts, we talk about why it's why adults like wrestling in the first place. It's an escape for some people. It's their chance to not think about their mortgage, or not think about like the thing at work or whatever. Like, I truly believe that it's important to the people that love it. And so I try to just perpetuate it and evolve it as much as I can.
The amount of times you're saying evolve should contact you and give you a shout out because you're putting
I
over
know, right?
evolve a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, this is my point. I didn't really, realize that we had any sort of power until I did start putting over like some of my favorite wrestlers and favorite organizations. And, I'm like, some of you guys probably owe me money at this point, but I mean, this is what I want to do. If I can promote like somebody that's been on the indie circuit for 5 years and hasn't been able to get any traction because I have a following, an internet following, and people listen to what I say, then like, let's talk. Like, let's come up with a marketing strategy. Like, it's a different world now. Like, you don't have to operate the way you used to like 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Utilize the internet, utilize the fans, utilize social media, because we're all out here to help each other. And honestly, I was saying this to people at AAW. I'm like, I want to be the Don King of wrestling. Like, I'm good at this. So if I can do that, if I can elevate a super talented person that's just not getting the shine that they need, I really want to do that. I would love to be a part of it. And so that's the thing. Everybody's doing something. Everyone's hustling here. We're all doing all sorts of different stuff. We're not just fans like sitting in our mom's basement. We're proactive. We're doing cool things, and we want to help the wrestlers as much as we can and help promote wrestling as much as we can.
I'm actually following in that vein. Last night, because I don't sleep, I'm a vampire. I was up watching WCPW last night because on your recommendation, I wanted to check out the villain, Marty Scurll. He's rather entertaining. I like the fact that he comes to the ring with an umbrella. I thought that was interesting. But Martin Kirby actually showed me something last night.
I don't know who that is. Look at that. Look at you.
Okay,
knowing things before me.
Oh, here's the thing. Apparently Eric Bischoff was the GM of the pay-per-view special, whatever it was. They had Osprey in it, Marty Scurll, a couple other people, but Martin Kirby, who apparently is the face of the promotion, it seems, he comes to the ring in Kirby trunks from the Nintendo. So, the little puff pink ball.
Yeah.
It's on his trunks, and then he has this move on the second rope called the I think the over elbow, because we get so tired of hearing the Empire elbow. So he does like this very histrionic thing and does an elbow drop off the second rope, not turnbuckle, the actual rope. And I found it funny, but I did see something I didn't like. They had a fatal 5-way. I think that's way too many people.
That's one too many people.
I think fatal 4-ways are too many, but just watching them try to go spot first. It was a spot fest, but I didn't like that. I was impressed, like I said. Martin Kirby, look him up on WCPW. It's on YouTube, so kill some hours. I know Laz is probably, Mile High Laz is probably going to kill a couple of brain cells while watching that because he hates a lot of that stuff. But
so. Hang on, is that the What Culture wrestling organization?
What Culture Pro Wrestling.
Right, exactly, which is exactly my point. What Culture was, a bunch of fans like 5 years ago. Exactly. And now they're putting on shows. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Like, there are more What Cultures out there. Like I said, I'm trying to build an empire here. Whatever it is, if I'm a promoter, if I'm like social media, whatever, I want to do it, anything that I can do to advance wrestling and wrestlers, like that's what I want to do. That's what I'm here for. I think I bring like a good mix of passion for the sport and just like marketing and intelligence and savvy and things like that. So What Culture is not going to be the only organization of its kind. Right. Give it 5 years and they're going to be a million other What Cultures and a million other former podcasters, bloggers, fans who are doing something proactive with their love of wrestling.
Right. And me personally, just being involved with all these different federations for me is a godsend, because if I'm not watching WWE, it's okay. I can watch WCPW. I can watch Ring of Honor. I can watch, House of Glory, all the New Japan. Because I even said on Twitter, 2 days ago, I had just found Shibata. I just found him. And now it's like, oh, he's injured. And I'm thinking, but I just found you. Like, no, I'm going to be deprived of these great athletes because they're injured now. But it gives me a chance to go and rewatch some of this stuff. I didn't know about Kenny Omega until about, 3 months ago? And I'm like, who the hell is this Kenny Omega dude? He's amazing. Right. And I'm not a fangirl who's just, likes him because he has, Pantene hair and, looks a certain way. He can go in the ring. I like that. AJ Styles, didn't like him in TNA, loved him in New Japan, love him now in WWE. It's it goes back to when I was talking about my love for old ECW. Never in a billion years could you see a dude like the Sandman in
Mm-hmm.
normal pro wrestling back in the 80s and 90s. Now you have guys who look like Dean Ambrose, who look like the Sandman, who look like me, who can be pro wrestlers and be great at it. And
Mm-hmm.
that is wonderful because it gives people a bigger chance to thrive on a stage that they
Mm-hmm.
under other circumstances would not be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like
Right.
what I do here. Is there
Mm-hmm.
any way a person like me who's very apathetic toward a lot of things can be so passionate about a wrestling show?
Mm-hmm.
Not unless I'm doing this.
Yeah. Look, I mean, the way that I look at it is like, now in WWE, we feel like we're going through a renaissance. We're seeing people like AJ Styles, we're seeing people like Nakamura and Kevin Owens and things like that. And my point is, if we have another Kevin Owens out there,
Love
I
them.
don't want it. I don't want it to take him 15 years to get there.
Right.
It's like if he's talented now and he needs to be pushed now, then like by all means, like let's join together and get this happening,
Right.
because we have the power here. Like Joey Ryan, for example, is a fantastic example. Whatever you think about his wrestling style or whatever,
It's your boy.
yeah, he's a master hustler. I mean, I have all the respect in the world for him, just how he's managed his own career. I mean, he's utilized social media. He's utilized YouTube and things like this to further his career. I mean, the first time I saw him, I took a bunch of footage of his shows and I put them on my Twitter, and he contacted me personally and was like, "Could you send me copies of those?" Because he was making his own compilation video. So, I mean, it's things like that, like we're savvy fans, like we know what we're doing in social media. And so why not use our intelligence and use our experience to help put yourself over? It's like, if I know how to get like 500 fans in a week, let me help you get 500 fans in a week, so it's like, it's things like that, like you just look at Joey Ryan and it's like, we could have so many more like other Joey Ryans out there, just making something out of themselves and not needing the WWE. I think that's where we win as fans. If we make it so that like a wrestler doesn't have to aim for the WWE to be successful, I think we're gonna find a lot of great wrestling out there.
I mean, I would
Um,
never have found Ciampa and Gargano if it wasn't for the Indies before they came to
mhm,
WWE. So there you go, right there. There's evidence
right.
in motion.
Yeah. I mean, we have the power to make this an even bigger renaissance revolution or whatever, if you will. You know what I mean? It's a good time in wrestling, but I think 2017 is going to be crazier. I mean, I
I
have
was going to
plans.
say, what are your
So,
predictions for 2017? Since we're
yeah, I
not in the
mean,
prediction business.
no, we're not. But I mean, like I said, again, if you question what I'm trying to do, what my intentions are, or whatever, like for example, one of the crazy things that I want to do is do like a speed dating event at WrestleMania weekend. Like I want to connect fans to each other because I have a lot of fans who are like, oh, like I just want to find a mate that likes wrestling and things like that. And so events like that, like I just don't want it to be like audience, carny show, whatever. Like we should all take advantage of the type of world that we live in now and try and make something of it for everybody involved.
We have a question, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Our 14-year-old correspondent asked, when did we realize that this is what we wanted to do?
Um, let's see. So I learned about wrestling podcasts last year. I found Cheap Heat. That was my first wrestling podcast. It was the greatest thing ever because I had no idea that adult fans were talking about wrestling to each other and that people cared and people were listening. And so I was like, this is a new world. This is not the world that I grew up in. If I even said like the slightest bit about liking wrestling, I was getting a dirty look or whatever. My poor little brother was called gay all the time because he liked to look at men. It was just so dumb. Like it was a really different world. Now we're almost on the verge of it being like a hipster thing where Ariel Helwani has to be like, I'm not a hipster wrestling fan. So we live in a different world. People are more open about their fandom and so I saw that. And so I started live tweeting and I started interacting with other people on Twitter and people suggested that I try podcasting, and Damian and I found each other, started podcasting, and then I was on Matman, I think, end of April. And I think just like the positive response and the fact that what I'm doing is helping people is what's driven me to keep going. That's when I knew I wanted to do this. So And it's hard, like you guys see if you follow my Twitter, every day is different. Sometimes I doubt it, sometimes I'm all gung ho about it, and I tentatively put like a WrestleMania deadline to see if this is not where I want it to be. That I might go back to like working full time and just doing this as a hobby. So we'll see. This is fun right now. Like we've made so many friends, we've connected so many people, we've made events like more fun for people. We've made people happier. That's why we keep doing it. We get messages all the time like your guys' podcast helped me and blah, blah, blah. And we share a lot of our personal lives and people are able to relate to us. And so, we found something special and we like the feedback that we've been getting. And as long as you guys are listening and we're making you happy, then we'll keep doing it.
I want to piggyback off of what you just said about how our show helps people, because we've gotten messages from people, DMs and emails and tweets of people who legitimately use our show as a healing mechanism because they get to know you and I on a personal level. They've known about our stories and they've
our
heard
struggles.
it, the struggles and the strife we've all gone through, and it's a bonding experience for a lot of people. And that kind of goes back to why I started doing broadcasting in the first place. It's one of those things where I have a long career in human service. I've been a therapist, I've been a counselor, I've worked for ACS, I've done a lot of different things. I've been a professional role model, as a lot of people used to call me. But I always felt
I like that.
I used to have that on a business card, true story.
That's awesome.
But what I wanted to do was I wanted to be able to reach out to a larger audience, but I didn't want to talk about psychology all day. So I had a love of sports growing up, and I'm not a fanatical fan. I'm not one of those people that is going to live and die if my team loses or wins. I'll just kind of shrug it like I normally do and just keep it moving. But being in broadcasting has given me an opportunity to connect to so many different types of people and to be able to integrate those people into my life, because we all matter in some way, shape, or form, because we're all connected. So if I can build the connectivity, because I kind of feed off the energy I'm getting, so to speak. So if I'm getting positive vibes from people and I'm putting out positive vibes, then I'm doing my job as a human. Forget as a radio host, forget as a broadcaster or a podcaster. As a human being, if I'm not violating the rule of don't be a dick, then I'm doing my job. And if I'm encouraging other people to do that, then they're doing their job, and vice versa. So that's why I got involved with all this. And you may think that we don't reach a lot of people. You may think that we don't make a difference. But let me reaffirm for you that we do. Even if it's, let me just go back to like an old thing I used to do when I was, a clinician. If you could help one person out of 10 overcome their inner demons, you're doing your job. You're not liking the statistic, but being 1 out of 10, but that one person thanks you and everything you've done for them. That's
I'm gonna cry again.
Yeah, it's not. You don't gotta cry. It's just one of those things where it's a reality of truth. For every one person that IMs you or DMs you or me to say thank you, it even cheers me up, and I'm one of the most saltiest people on the earth. So what does that say?
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna keep doing it. We want to be taken I want to be taken seriously. I want people to listen to the podcast. I want people to know that there are people covering wrestling positively and trying to help each other out and collaborating and trying to become a community. This is a beautiful thing. Like the fact that we can all have these experiences because we all watch wrestling is insane. Let's just keep riding the wave. And I mean, it was so much fun to see a lot of our friends and our listeners at AEW in Chicago. It was just amazing. Like this is what I'm talking about. You remember when I did my indie debut? I
do.
And then there was those guys that were throwing money at me. I'm friends with them now.
Oh yeah, that's right. They apologized.
They apologize profusely. Every time they see me, they apologize. And now we're good friends. I mean, it's like, they know I'm trying to do something in this industry, and they always wish me luck. They listen to the podcast. I mean, this is how fortunes have turned. It went from some guys throwing money at me because they thought it was funny and me feeling like bad about myself, to like a couple months later, now we're all friends and we're trying to put each other over and like whatever, you know, like it's just like, this is insane, you know, like, so if we can help people using wrestling, like that's what we're trying to do.
And we do it well. Not for nothing. I think we do it well. One other question was, what moment got you into pro wrestling? Me personally, like I said, SummerSlam 88, if you've heard the show before, I am that old where I remember SummerSlam 88 vividly because I actually used to like Don the Rock Morocco, go figure. And when he lost to Dino Bravo, and I know I'm losing a lot of people when I mention these names, I was like, no, because it was on closed circuit TV and I got to watch it. And then that was the, first appearance of the Ultimate Warrior. And that was it, but we've seen an evolution in pro wrestling, and I like it because if you saw our Twitter earlier, people were talking about after the Attitude Era, after the Ruthless Aggression Era, people took a break. I took a break, and it wasn't until I guess we hit the beginning of the Reality Era where I started to really pay attention. Like I say, guys like Daniel Bryan, guys like CM Punk, Samoa Joe. Even though I wasn't a big TNA guy, I knew of them from Ring of Honor back in the day. So what keeps me coming back, not so much because I do this show, what keeps me coming back is the fact that I learn something new about myself and about my own fandom whenever I'm watching the show. Like, I can tell you right now, the SmackDown women, I love them all. I love this. I mean, I'm a Sasha Banks. I'm a 4-horsewoman, Mark. We know that. I saw on Twitter, it was like, which one has to go? I volunteered to sacrifice myself so the 4 horsewomen can continue to do their job. I said, no, the world needs this. But the SmackDown women, from Carmella to Alexa to Naomi, all of them, they are busting ass because women are finally, and I've kind of become a defender of women's wrestling to some people, which I take that very seriously. I appreciate the athleticism that women bring to the table. I appreciate the passion that they bring to the ring, especially if they want to learn the business. Not just, and I know I've been hard on, the whole Bella Army thing, and I just have a thing against people who were picked to be models that happen to get into wrestling. But if they tough it out, i.e. Nikki Bella, and they dedicate themselves to being a better performer. It's like an actor who's an actor because they look a certain way, but then they dedicate themselves to their craft. I think that is beautiful. I think if you dedicate yourself to anything you love to do, that is beautiful. As long as it's not hurting anybody, but it's a positive, go on. Chase that dream. Look at me. Again, I'm a professional broadcaster, but I started out as one of the shyest, most like timid people. I'm pretty jumpy, when it comes to like new people. So the fact that I'm able to use this medium to improve myself as a human being is beautiful to me. But as far as women's wrestling is concerned, I can sit here, and I know we've disagreed on whether or not a women's wrestling event, like a all women's event, is a good or a bad thing. I will be one of the first people watching that. I will buy a ticket. Not because I want to see girls in next to nothing and bra and panties matches. No, I want to see the women bust ass because that's what women wrestlers do. They kick ass and they take names. Why wouldn't we get behind that? Why wouldn't someone like me get behind that? And if I get, and I'm sorry I'm on a little bit of a tangent, but
no, we need you.
Friend of the show, friend of the show, Rick Castle, him and I, we make the joke of, hey, if we're going to be quote unquote groupies to women's wrestling events and we're just going to show up with signs and say, we love the work you do because of the work you do, sign me up. I'm all about it.
I love you guys. This is awesome.
And someone just suggested Eva Marie to me, and I'm just like, next question, please.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think for me, I think if you guys have listened to the show for a long time, I had a really lonely childhood in terms of wrestling. I was a wrestling fan. That was like what I loved. And I just remember having that lonely childhood and not being able to share the thing that I loved with other people or talking about it or whatever and having to hide it. And I think that's probably one of the things that's that's kept me doing this, is that I've found a whole community of people who feel as passionately about wrestling as I do. And if you go back to our episode about crying about wrestling, it was such a beautiful thing to me to watch Ciampa Gargano with like all of my wrestling friends and all of us like tweeting about it, and we're all crying about it at the same. We started like sending each other pictures of us crying to the match, and it was just like, this is so different from when I was like 10 years old and I had to like try and sneak and watch Monday Night Raw, and like no one else would support it. Now I get to share this with all of my friends all over the world, and they love it just as much as me. And and I'm trying to ensure that like the next generation has a good experience. Like I don't want anyone to have to hide anything that they love. Like it's not just wrestling. It's like if you feel passionately about something, you should just do it. And you'll find that there are other people out there who are just as passionate as we are about wrestling, who are willing to support you, and there are other people that really want to help you succeed.
Someone asked, was that Gizmo in the back, by the way?
That was Gizmo.
Okay, they thought it was a cat, so I said dog. They want to know if Gizmo's a wrestling fan.
Maybe. I guess. He's a little dumb, guys. Sorry.
Oh.
Like he's a little too dumb to be a fan of anything. But I can. Did you see WWE is making dog products now, like dog and cat, like pet products? Yeah. So they have products. They have like WWE branded dog beds. And like dog bowls and things like that. So maybe you will see Gizmo in like a WWE outfit eventually at some point. Actually, they probably are wrestling fans. They, on any given Monday night or Tuesday night, they're the ones watching Raw with me. So,
nice. Yeah. So let me ask you this question as your partner: if you were to recruit a non-fan into wrestling, how would you go about it?
I would take them to an indie show.
Okay.
I'd take them to an indie show. I'd take them, like to AEW or something like that, anything close to that, and just show them a good time. Like hang out with my wrestling friends, like see how much fun it is, see how accessible the wrestlers are, just like hang out for a few hours. Like I think you're seeing wrestling in its purest form when you're going to these indie shows. There are people that love WWE for the explosions and the production quality and things like that. Like I don't know, that's not the right fan that I want to recruit.
By the way, those things scare the crap out of me when the fireworks.
I know. I mean, because I know there are. I know that there are people that have been converted by just seeing the production quality of a WWE event. But that's not necessarily the type of fan I want to create. Like I want to create a fan who appreciates it as an art and appreciates what the performers are doing and what they sacrifice and how hard they work. I don't want somebody falling in love with wrestling because Kane has some awesome pyro. Like that I'm not doing my job. That's not what I'm setting out to do. So that's how I would try to get somebody into the thing that I love so much. I would take them with me to an AEW show or an indie show and like just show them how much fun it is. I mean, that's the thing. Like I'm starting to get a reputation as like an interesting seatmate to have when you go to events. Because I yelled at that woman last night, and then I was friends with that guy, and one of our fans was like, "Oh, I would totally want to go to a show with you." And last Friday, Kelly Frazier and Ben Shaw both had a chance to sit next to me, and it was just I was lit. It was great. I'm just like freaking out over everything, and I'm just like slapping them. I'm super into it. And it's like you're gonna have fun if you go to a wrestling event with me, and we are giving people the option or the chance to do that for AEW October 7th and 8th. I have a seat available next to me for each night, and it's actually on the stage. So we'll be up there, and everyone will see me being a jackass and you reacting to it, or maybe we can both be jackasses together.
And how are we going about choosing a winner?
I don't know yet. I actually want to talk to AEW and see, because there are a couple of other people that are going to be at the show and things like that. I think, again, this is me trying to cross promote people and organizations. You know, I think it would be advantageous for AAW to, you know, talk about the fact that like this is an event that's bringing people from California, that's bringing people from New York, blah, 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 and things like that, you know. So like, let's use all of this to our advantage, you know, like, let's just help promote each other, collaborate, put each other over. Like, that's the spirit of wrestling.
Oh, and on our website, lastmarkstanding.com, we actually have a calendar of our upcoming appearances, don't we?
Yes. And I've added Ring of Honor, actually, to the list.
Which Ring of Honor are you going to?
October 14th, because I'm boarding my dogs back in Chicago. I haven't found a boarder here that I trust. So I'm going to drive up there and go visit family and board my dogs up there, and then go to the Ring of Honor event on Friday the 14th, right. I think. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. I unfortunately, I can't go to that one, and you know I'm dying to go to Ring of Honor because of a particular female wrestler, but...
I know.
Yeah, somebody rubbed it in on Twitter, just like, oh, you're a fan of hers. I was like, yeah, and they were like, well, she's a champion at a federation where I live, and I'm thinking, you know what? Don't be mean. Don't be mean. Anywho, sorry.
Yes.
So yeah, folks. Oh yeah, please take pictures. I will be appearing again at the House of Glory event with my personal friend of the show and security, Rick Castle. You can find it actually on Eventbrite, but look up House of Glory. At one of the shows, Big Mike Elgin is going up against Cody Rhodes, and this is the show in October.
Oh my God.
And this is the night before I'm supposed to go to South Carolina. Trina knows why. So I am going to be exhausted boarding that plane the day after the show. But I couldn't say no because, you know, Castle Rick was really bugging me to go to the show. So we're going to that. And I'm going to the one next Saturday where EC3 is going up against Brian Fury. So I'm looking forward to that because I've never been to a House of Glory one. Fingers crossed. I may not have a voice at the end of it.
That's perfect. That's the right way to look at it. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I want to give a little quick shout out to EC3 because if you guys follow his Twitter, he was booked at an event on Saturday that they didn't publicize him at all. He had no idea what it was called. Like, he just knew where he was supposed to show up. And then later on, like I think on Sunday, like today, he posted, he's like, hey, by the way, that show that I went to ran out of money, didn't have music, all this different stuff. And I tweeted back at him, I was like, thank you for doing those shows. You know, because everyone has to start somewhere. You know, it's like, maybe they ran out of money, maybe they didn't have music, but there might be somebody wrestling in that organization that could be a star someday. And so to have somebody like Ethan Carter come to that show, fulfill his responsibility and you know, appear like he said he was going to, even though it clearly like wasn't organized and things like that. Like, that's what the spirit of wrestling is about. Like, that's the hustle, man. Like, somebody like Ethan Carter can go to, you know, middle of nowhere, West Virginia, and like not get paid and still help and try and put over younger wrestlers. Like, that's what it's about. It's awesome.
Putting each other over. That's what this is about. This is all about connectivity and putting each other over. So yeah, rants over.
Yeah.
We return you to the regularly scheduled Last Mark Standing podcast. Again, you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud.com, LastMarkStanding.com. Tweet the show at Last Mark Podcast. Trina at The Marky Smark. Yours truly at Dare to be Damian. By the way, shout out to Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae for getting married this weekend at
my favorite.
Disney World. I thought Disneyland.
Yeah, California. Yeah.
Awesome. Seeing Tommaso Ciampa there also kind of made me happy, as well as Joey Ryan. So thought that was cool. I like when wrestlers are friends and they can be goofy and have fun.
Right, they're all a family. I mean, like, you know, like that's the thing. Like, we're a family of fans. They're a family of wrestlers. Like, you know, like let's start merging these things and helping each other out. You know, like, it did warm my heart to see them all there because you know, these are people that have partnered together as tag teams, and they've been through rough times together, and they're all still like supporting each other. That's fantastic.
Exactly, and that is what we want to do here. So if anyone's listening for the first time and you like what we do, go to lastmarkstanding.com for all your one-stop shopping needs. We will have tissues to give away for the smarts to dry their eyes because, Trina cries a lot. I don't cry at all. So that's why we find it funny that we have Last Mark standing merch when it comes to tissues.
Yeah.
So I'll be passing them out. Yeah, I'll be passing them out. It's allergy season. I'm allergic to, certain types of cats. So if you have a cat, please don't come up to me because I may die. I'll be sure to take some Claritin before I go to House of Glory. But again, tweet the show at Dare to be Damian, at Last Mark Podcast, at the Marquise Mark, lastmarkstanding.com. We do have a Patreon page, but I'm not going to bore you with all that information. You can find that
it's all on the
there.
website.
Also, before we drop, a big shout out to dropthebelt.com for offering to make us part of fantasy wrestling. Our friend Chuck Colorado is a part of that, and we have been asked and offered to be a part of a fantasy wrestling, sort of like fantasy football, which I don't do, but I'd be willing to do this because it sounds interesting. So again, a big shout out to dropthebelt.com. Trina, anything else?
Nope. Thank you guys for bearing with me and listening to my rants. I work pretty hard, so I just kind of needed to get it out there, I think.
And you do a great job, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You got it?
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All right, good, guys. We'll see you next time.